And I'm live. Welcome back to the United Lens, guys. Today we are going to be doing the preview for the Aston Villa game. I might sound rough. I don't know how I'm going to come across. I have got a horrendous cold that's sweeping the UK by storm, quite literally, at the moment. So I'm going to give it my very best. The throat might go, but we will get into this. There's obviously a few bits of information coming out regarding players, interviews with Bruno Fernandes, an interview with Rio, plus his obviously everything that's been said before that. So Manchester United have had that well timed and got someone in to hit the bad press head on with good press. You know what this channel is all about. I cannot stand the media bias, so we're going to try and cut straight through that. We'll have a look at the Aston Villa lineup. They're only expected to miss one player to Afcon, and he's not even a starter. So unlike ourselves, and how this is going to affect the game, but there are injuries obviously to be concerned with. And yes, there's a few other little bits I'd like to go through. So first things first, if you haven't already, you can spot up here somewhere. Up here, you've got the QR code to my TikTok and obviously our X link for United Lens. I'll tell you what I'll do for the QR code. If I just add this in here, so give you a chance to at least come back and find it a bit clearer. Please head over there, hit the follow, have a look at the videos I put out. The content's slightly different. It's more text-based, just due to my workload and my coaching. I only set really aside the time for this, but I'm trying to grow both, and if I can't grow them, it's going to be a bit pointless to put even more time aside, if that makes any sense. So please help me. It is greatly appreciated. So let's get rid of that. Like I say, it is up here to the right at all times. So pop on, get a like, get a follow, subscribe. You know the drill. Okay. So let's move swiftly on to the Aston Villa preview. And I would expect Villa, unfortunately, to be a very unchanged side. And I think, well, I know we're both unbeaten in like 9-10 games. Their unbeaten is quite a lot different to ours. I think it's 9 wins in 10 that's shot them up into third place. And yeah, that's not really what we're going to want to be competing with. Let me just enlarge this a lot. So, first and foremost, as you know, I only like to focus on the outfield players normally. But big boost. Looks like Emi Martinez is not going to make a recovery. Still waiting for the press conferences. I know I normally like to wait for the press conferences to be done to have a bit more facts and figures for these previews, but I've got a busy weekend, as I'm sure all of us have, with Christmas coming around the corner. Obviously going to have to do another preview for Boxing Day as well, and that's going to need to be a pre-record. So keep your eyes peeled for that. So as you can see, this is the expected lineup due by FootMob. Great app, have a look. There isn't a team in the world they can't get you facts and figures for. So highly recommended. So Watkins, if they've got Watkins, we need De Ligt or Maguire. I'm pretty sure most of you will agree with that. So yeah, let me know. But for me, the man that two men that always scare me is McGinn and Banana. Banana has caused us many a problem, whether it be his namesake playing in goal for us or just him at Everton and now Aston Villa. He is a beast. Belgian international. A lot of people, I've heard it so many times on social media, Villa will be without their Onana. He's Belgium. So he's not going to the Afcon, unless he switched allegiances. Just because he has the same name as our goalkeeper does not make it mean he's African. But Onana and John McGinn, absolute engines. Rolls Royce of the Premier League, up, down, up, down. Although they've had them playing in a 4-2-3-1, I believe it'll be more of a 4-5-1. I expect Tielemans and McGinn to be more in that midfield. Maybe Onana going on those long runs through and sort of just rotating. And that's going to cause us big, big issues, which we will get into with our lineup. Morgan Rogers in great form. Obviously, I believe it was the last game he scored the 2 goals. Aston Villa are scoring a lot of late goals. I know, you could say it could be who gives up before the end of the 90 minutes on this game, because we're scoring late and we're constantly scoring, but we can't keep a clean sheet to save our lives. And Villa have got, I think, the most games where they've come from behind and won. So it'll be a very open game. But back four, this back four, I think we can really get up. Konza, never really rated him. If we don't know how to handle Lindelof, then we've got a problem. And to be honest, he's the one player, if I was the manager, I'd think about maybe almost dropping him. Just the fact that he could be exploited by the opposition, knowing what his weaknesses are. Sometimes it's good to do that. Matheson and Cash, fullbacks. Matheson, quite strong in the tackle. Obviously, we don't know who he's going to be up against. We don't even know what formation we're going to be playing. So I'll move into that in a minute. But Matty Cash, bombs down, good right foot. He seems to have grown as a player. Once he got into the Polish team, I think he went on to the next level again. And Villa just are well bonded together team. Now, the one player, obviously, they will be missing. And it'll be interesting to see how the away fans treat him. He'll be in the stands. But obviously, it's Jadon Sancho. Everything that's gone on with him through the summer, in the media, I don't want to get into that. I have a problem with the way media sort of looks at players. But a lot of it seemed to be true about the girlfriend, the late nights. Is this what he was doing, missing training? The last couple of games, he seems to have his head screwed on. He seems to be pulling out the party tricks again. So, big up, I Am Titanium. Thank you for joining me. So it will be interesting to see if the away fans get their eyes on Sancho and see what kind of response he gets. But like I say, he'll be tucked away in the stand, so I won't be expecting too many boos at Villa Park. But moving swiftly on, now we've done the Villa side. Like I say, Watkins is so hit and miss. But if Aidan Heaven's at the back, which obviously will be the next thing we will look at, is what my fear is. And like I say, I haven't had any team news yet. We are going to have to wait for that to come in, I believe, tomorrow. No, that's the wrong one. That's what you get for having to do all your own add-ons. We want that one. There we go. Zoom in. So obviously, keeper will not change, but apart from that, there will be some changes, I hope. This is what I'm expecting to see. I agree. I like Rodgers as well. Hard working, will give you 110% every game for 90 minutes. Everything a footballer should do. You can go left, right, got a good shot on him, and literally will do whatever it takes to win a game. You can't fault that. So I am expecting a few changes. I think Euro, De Ligt and Shaw might be our best back three to deal with them if De Ligt is back available from this back twinge that has kept him out the last couple of games. I can't see why he wouldn't, because he was meant to have been close in the last game and only just missed out. But it's going to be a hard one on formation. So at the moment, you know, I'm Titanium. Anyone else who wants to join in the chat or leave it in the comments, we can talk about formation. The media's all over this 4-3-3 leak bullshit. We don't know what to believe. You know, I watched the overlap this morning where they put, well, they didn't put up the graphics. Gary Neville held them on some cards and was just like, you know, you'll see this. I can't even show you on my camera because it's going to blur it out. If you see this picture here, this, even Sky didn't have decent graphics of our formation. It was that hard. Were we playing a back four? Were we not? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. So let's bring this up and I will talk over the top. There you go. That's why you can't hear me. I forgot to add the mic to the other screen. So, right, guys. So going back to what I was saying, the back three, I think it's going to have to be what it is because of the lineup, because of Kobbie Mainoo. There could be a big change, and I think our fan base call for it, but not us. But the Luke Shaw could be the one who's dropped. Titanium, just let me know that you can hear me again now, please, mate. Or anyone else in the chat. I think Shaw messed up. I think he didn't try to correct his mistake when he made it for the first goal. But for the rest of the game, he wasn't really at fault, was he? So the rest of the goals came more on Heaven not coming across and then getting caught between the other two centre-backs. So Shaw could be out, Martinez could be in. I've heard some rumblings on clickbait accounts. That's what I'm going to call them, okay? They can be your TikToks, they can be your YouTube shorts. It's not really been on the biggest ones yet, but it's certainly been spoken about. And I certainly know one man who's been calling for Martinez to play more as a left wing back. But he could we see Martinez as the holding midfielder and Mainoo not play? This is going to be the real question. We are not going to know anything really until the press conference or maybe even when the starting 11's announced. I'm expecting Fernandes, Mainoo, midfield pivot, just purely because I don't think the manager trusts Ugarte. I don't trust Ugarte. I don't think the players trust him. He's meant to hold, and I see him up front trying to close down like a Bruno. So, Titanium's met Lamens and Heaton today. Well, I'm sorry, we're going to have to just stop on the midfield there. You're going to have to give me more information on that. Were you doing a goalkeeping session, or because that's random two players, or do you think they're just out having a coffee and catching up on what he might need to do better? So please come back in the chat, and we'll come back to that one in a minute. That's quite cool, though. Yeah, so Mainu, Fernandes. I'm not sure Mainu can do the sitting role. I'm really not. It's a personal opinion. I don't believe that a player can move back that many positions. Start as a striker in his youth career. I was at an event. I don't think you can start up top as a young player, play all the way as a number 10 in the under 18s, and then be playing that sort of 10 hybrid 8 role. And now we're talking about him being a holding midfielder. I don't see it. I think he's great under the ball and can get out of tight spots, but honestly, I don't think he's a tackler. I don't see that sort of mentality in him. I wish I did. Don't get me wrong. I wish Kobe all the best. For those of you who are not aware and haven't seen me say on Tactical Devils or Balls Out podcast, I sort of see Kobe Mainu as the new Nicky Butt. And obviously Nicky Butt himself is going viral, backing Kobe Mainu to get out of the club. And if anyone was ever going to know what it's like to be an understudy to a star player, Nicky Butt is that. His best mate is Paul Scholes. And Paul Scholes played along Roy Keane. And where he's like, I want to play football. So he went and did it. And I really do feel Kobe Mainu should be in the same space as that. But the wing backs is where this is all going to matter tomorrow against Villa. Do we go wing backs or do we go 4-3-3? So quite easily, Dalot could drop straight in as the right back, and then we got back four. But we don't have a left. You go Fernandes, Mainu, and Ugarte potentially could work as a three. It would work better with Casemiro. That front three, by the way, I know you can all see it. That front three is devastating. If they start to click, that could be quite devastating. I'm telling you now, just for being fluid and rotating, and they just need a couple of goals. I know Cunha got both his goals have been calm finishes. He bent that one in the bottom corner for his first, but now he's scored at the Stretford end. I hope he pushes on. Sesko looked like a different player, but he was bursting from where Mount is now, that left-sided 10. I actually think is his best position. So, but I don't rate Cunha up top. I like him running from deep. It's going to be a really hard one because I don't really think Cunha wants to play the right-sided 10. So Bruno could move up, Mount could move back. It's going to be hard. So people are really going to have to look at what's going on in the press conference. You're going to have to listen to the fine detail. Don't listen to the words he uses, the explanations, and when he's pressed by the English media, you sort of have to think, what else could that word mean with Ruben Amorim? And that's what I found a lot in his interviews, especially when I've watched some with, say, Sky or ESPN, when other people come in. I watch a lot of them, and he'll use a different word but be meaning the same thing. The word I picked up on before was rotation with Bruno. Rotation did not mean in and out of the team, did it? Because Bruno plays every game, no matter what. Unless he's suspended, Bruno plays. Unless he's injured, Bruno plays. He could have one leg and Bruno will still try and play. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking for lineup. I think it's Dorgu, Dalot, wing backs. But I would quite happily take a Dorgu out and put Ugarte in with Mainu and let Bruno sort of do more in the midfield. So I was listening to the Rio Ferdinand interview on Rio Presents about an hour ago. And he was explaining, and it was really nice to hear him say it in his own words, that the manager in the final third expects either him or Kobe. So his wording was, that whoever plays this role, him or Kobe, steps in as a third 10. But he says the 10s will push on, and that should leave space for me to step in and create, which we've seen in the last few games. So he is expecting the 8 to push forward, which does mean the holding midfielder has to sit just in front of the centre-backs. So he would almost slide into a back four. So we could see a different role for Bruno if Kobe comes in. But I can't get my head around the holding midfielder. We're not going to see Kone come in. We're not going to see any of the youngsters come in and play a holding midfielder. So that's why I'm saying you can clip it up now. Could Martinez start against Bournemouth this weekend as the holding midfielder? There's some sense in it, but I just don't think he's got the legs. That's a personal opinion. So what we'll do, we'll finish with this segment on the lineup, and I want to move on to, obviously, it's more breaking news today, and in my opinion, it's more media bullshit. So, story broke this morning about Anton Semenyo. I haven't got the tweets to hand because I felt too ill this morning and I didn't get them when I saw them. But the original tweet, I believe it was from Fabrizio, is saying that Manchester United and Manchester City have been in contact. Now, a lot of the time, when they give another, so two clubs with the same name, so Manchester United, Man City, it happens all the time. And normally what it means is, in the translation of the information, they just say Manchester. Manchester have been in contact. Because it might be a fraud. Now, the reason for that is, normally it means City when they say Manchester. So the reason that is, obviously, we all know as fans, and if someone says United, there's only one team they're talking about. There might be many teams with United in their name, but there is only one United, and that is us. You know, I'm no angry Ginge. I'm not spelling it with a Y. But yeah, he is a top player. Ruben Amorim said it himself in the embargo section last week. You would have seen on my previous preview for the Bournemouth game, I said he pulled up the fact that they had a special player in the embargo section. He did confirm it was Semenyo. And he did then go on to score against us. But I don't think he caused us that many problems. But he's been a great player. This is, I will come back to because I'm not in disagreement with this. But Semenyo is, for me, a wide forward. He's a right forward or a left forward. You know, he doesn't play through the middle. And Burmo is definitely a wide right forward or can play through the middle. Cunha is a 10 or can play through the middle. So really, Semenyo's place would be probably the left wing back. And everyone's talking about that. But I'm sorry, he can't defend. A few weeks ago, I was on Tactical Devils, and Jarvis, myself, and Stu were talking about Semenyo when we were first linked, and the £65 million release clause was announced. I'm pretty sure it's pounds and not euros. And I said then, just because his stats and positions show where he is on the pitch and all his movement is never back in the defensive third. He may cross into it ever so slightly on the line, but he's not a wing back. He's not getting back, and we exploited that. He didn't come back and defend Ahmad when he was on the right, and he didn't defend on the left at all. And we did exploit it because he's always looking to get in behind in that space. Very Salah-esque in what he does. So why would we sign someone who, against us, didn't defend, doesn't look like a natural defender, and we've already got Ahmad, who is too attacking on the right. Now, there are pros and cons, which obviously will tick off because I know people are going to say them, and I'm opening myself up for this. If we were to sign Semenyo playing the left wing back, then we need to sign a defensive right wing back, or Dalot moves over to the right, and then Ahmad gets dropped. Most of us wouldn't want Ahmad dropped. If we sign Semenyo as a left-sided 10, who's getting dropped? Sesko or Cunha? We've signed both of them in the summer. We're not signing someone else to play in their position within 6 months when so many other areas of the pitch need filling. So that would say, are we changing formation? A 4-3-3? No, that doesn't work either. So it's a big thing. I would love to go back to the days where we go, he's at Bournemouth, he's their star player, we're going to sign him. Titanium just said, there's a 16-year-old who's obviously good enough to start for Palace tonight. Let's keep an eye on him, and in 2 years, we'll try and sign him. You know, we would have signed an Eze, we would have signed all these players when we were Manchester United under Alex Ferguson. What you do, you take the best players from the teams below you, you weaken them, and you stay above them. That's just good business, okay? So to take Semenyo would be great business strategy. But we're not in a position to have players sat on the bench and not buy players that we need. So for me, I think it's lost in communication. It isn't Semenyo it isn't Manchester United that potentially made that contact. It's probably more agents and intermediaries just looking out there who's available in the summer, who's available now. So transfers never stop. The meetings never stop. Everyone's always looking for their next income. So that's the agents, okay? And no one ever had a bidding war with one team, did they? So 65 is the release clause. But if everyone pays 65 million, the player gets to choose. But we might want to find out, okay, what's his family like? How many kids has he got? We can give him a house in this area worth this much. We'll give him this much signing on fee. You know, is he committed to his African games? Will he always go? Because obviously, for those who aren't aware, Semenyo is not at the Afcon because they didn't qualify for once. You know, so again, superstar player. And Titanium, you did say it. You don't think we should sign another Afcon bound player, but some of these players don't always qualify. So it's a big deal. If we were going to spend 65 million, I'd rather sign a holding midfielder or two, because we are being linked with Gallagher. That's going to be a loan. But there are other players out there, 65 million could guarantee we could go and get. But I'm not sure clubs would be willing to sell in January. So I'd rather take the loan deals, keep the money in the bank, and move on. But transfers is definitely a show which I could do 2-3 hours streaming, talking about our potential targets, how they would fit in, but what we would have to lose as a team to make that work. You know, Walton is a high priority in my eyes with his line-breaking passes, but the way he plays, he would still not be a holding midfielder, so that's a Bruno role. Bruno can't move forward because we signed two players in that position. So we've got to be really, really smart, okay? So here you go. So what I was saying about Semenyo, about finding out details. Semenyo proposed to his long-term girlfriend, Jodine Buckley, right? So back in the day, Alex Ferguson made it quite clear to all the young players, I want you to settle down. I want you to have wives, kids, find a house. Don't live in the town. Live in the outskirts. Do this, do that. This is how you get the right mentality. I'll tell you what, I look back at my own playing days, and I gave up playing semi-professional when my daughter was born. So she was born mid-season. At the end of that season, I never went back. I just played with my mates and played county league, but it meant I didn't have to go on long travelling to be away from my daughter. And obviously at semi-professional, you still have to work. Whereas someone like this means that, okay, he's not going to be out partying with the lads, head's going to be down, turn up to training, he's got to do the school runs. Okay, what sort of school are you looking for? Showing the schools in the area. There's what kind of community is, what faith are you? I know they did that with Mbumo, you know, so found him everything he needed for Mbumo. They did it with Mazrari as well for their faith, you know, and that I literally will tip my hat to. That's United going above and beyond. They're not the only club that do it, but you've got to get in there and you've got to put a whole pitch together, because at the end of the day, you're not proposing a deal to the player anymore. It's his agent, it's his entourage, it's his mum, dog, cat, pet, goat, whatever he's got. Okay, probably shouldn't have gone with goat, but you know, who knows what they use it these days. In the garden, trim the hedge. But that's too much Jeremy Clarkson's Farm I've been watching today. Yes, so yeah, Mbumo's Muslim, so you know these two could get on. We also might not be able to sign Semenyo if you want to flip the coin and go, because Dallo decided to try and kill him by flipping him over his shoulder in the game. You know, so that might be something we need to brush under the carpet very quickly. So we'll have to see what happens there. So, yeah, we'll just keep moving forward, and I hope we'll get a few more links, because at the moment the only links we're really seeing is Semenyo and obviously Conor Gallagher, and they are tenuous links. You know, I've stopped listening to Romano, because at the end of the day, once he started his YouTube channel, ironically, I say, a lot of his things did not come true. He had to put out content constantly, and it wasn't of the same quality. So I will wait on certain other journalists, not necessarily ones that go on people's shows. Fabio got married at 18. Do you think Fergie encouraged it? If he did, then what did he do to his brother? So I wouldn't like to say that Fergie was telling them at 18 to go get married, but he certainly wanted them to sort of have a girlfriend and be sort of semi-settled with them. Wayne Rooney's spoken about it. Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, Gary Neville. You think all of the 92 class said about it. Roy Keane said he was some of the things Ferguson, when he first came over, spoke about family. He wants to know every little detail. And now, in the world we live in 2025, they call that micromanaging and interfering in people's lives. But do you know what? I think it's great. I would never have a problem with it if that was for my son. Yeah, look, do you know what? Keep an eye on him. This is what's going on here. This is what's going on there. There's certainly been enough players out there where there's a certain player who's absolutely turning it up for Marseille, that if he was under Alex Ferguson, he might be tearing it up for us. We don't know. Okay? So there's lots to be said about being settled in a relationship and having people watch, okay? It's weird to think that, yeah, Fergie could have told him to settle down at 18. But I wouldn't want to look back on that and think that's exactly what was said. I just think they probably, his girlfriend, he had to marry her maybe for her to come over from Brazil because of the age. She could have been Brazilian. She might not have been Brazilian. She might have been English. If I had more details, I'd probably give more of a balanced opinion on it. So there is one other thing out. Yeah, I'm not going to put that one up, Titanium, but it's sort of that ground we don't like to touch anymore. It's just clickbait territory for other people. But yes, I generally do think if Ferguson had been around, things might be different. And that definitely would. Maybe even with Kobe. So that was my little thing towards Kobe. I think we should do a little bit of maybe a player profile with Kobe Mainoo for the Aston Villa game, but also not just the Aston Villa game. We'll call it the Afcon profile because you will see on the thumbnail, well, unless you're live right now, on the thumbnail it will be saying, without Afcon players. No Mazrari, no Mbumo, no Ahmad, no right-hand sided players, but a first choice for the manager. Kobe Mainoo is going to have to replace one of those players. Now, whether the manager does that under peer pressure, whatever pressure from the club, because of bad media, because we know we are a media-run club rather than a, how should I put it, a professionally managed club. I put out a post earlier on my TikTok, and it's got quite a few views and shares already. Basically, where I recalled the days of Alex Ferguson, and I sort of think back to your Yapstam, your Roy Keane. We're talking the creme de la creme players, right? So if a player's in the changing room and he says, I want to leave, Alex Ferguson would have probably shouted and screamed a little bit. Maybe depending on the player, talk to him calmly, try to talk him out of it. But by the end of that conversation, two things would have happened. The door would have been opened and you would have been asked to politely get your shit and leave. And until your deal's done, you're training with the reserves. Or the door would have stayed shut, they would have hashed out, and then probably the player walks out with a new contract because there was something going on. We've seen this in multiple ways. Yapstam's book, Yapstam goes. Roy Keane's comment, Roy Keane goes. Wayne Rooney goes in the office, negotiates the contract. Something happens. He's cleared it up more recently on his own podcast. Wayne Rooney stays. David Beckham, Cristiano Ronaldo. The list goes on. Ronaldo's probably the biggest one. Just give me one more year and we sell him for 80 million. Okay? But Kobe Mainoo, we're hearing nothing coming out. The kid is praised by a lot of the ex-United professionals. So I spoke about Nicky Butt earlier. Nicky Butt has known it, and Paul Scholes, obviously. They've all known him since about 8-9 years of age and have done some coaching with him as he's grown up. So they know him quite well. And they all say, quiet guy, down to earth, works hard, just wants to play football. And that's the Kobe Mainoo I've always seen. I don't know what chat thinks, but it's a conundrum, let's be honest, because normally when a player wants to leave, you start hearing stories. Kobe Mainoo is probably going to be framed for the leak right now. Who leaked the inquest going into the 4-3-3 leak? Someone's probably going to say, oh, well, Garnacho done it. He's mates with Garnacho. So therefore, Mainoo done the leak because he wants out of the club. His brother's gone and wore that stupid T-shirt. I thought Paul Pogba's brother was thick. But Mainoo's half-brother, I do believe he is. What is he thinking? He's not going to get social media followers himself, is he, for doing that? So all he's going to do is put more pressure on his brother to perform when he's already not getting natural starts. And this is where I want to go full circle, going back to the Afcon players, he was always likely to come in. He was always the most likely thing to have happened with the Afcon and injuries was that Bruno moves into a 10 and Kobe Mainoo came in and played alongside Casemiro. Because it was just a natural fix for the club. But now, the manager's going to have a really hard decision. It's like, because he pulled up Garnacho, he's pulled up other players for Dorgu got dropped for liking a tweet. Now Mainoo's account apparently liked a tweet. First off, we'll touch on the fact a lot of the players don't run their Instagram accounts. So just because Mainoo's ticked account has liked it does not mean he done it. It's whoever's running it. And a lot of the time, it's family that runs it and puts the posts up. And you can normally catch them out. And I'll show. Well, I can't show you, but I'll tell you how to do it. Keep a look when they write the posts, and it's about them. Keep a lookout for the words like we, he, and things like that, where they're talking in the third person. Because when the family member writes it, 99 times out of 100, they mess up on at least one of the lines, and it mentions them in a third person, which just shows you wouldn't type that when you're typing it yourself, unless you've got one hell of an ego and you're top of the game, like Salah, Ronaldo, Messi, etc. Okay. So yeah, chat. Come back to me. What do you think? Kobe Mainoo. He's got to start. Where does he start? Who do we rotate in and out for him? You know, for me, we've got no right wing back. So if it is, do you want Dorgu or Dallo on the right? Dallo seems to have been working best with Luke Shaw. So if Shaw stays in, maybe Dallo's okay. But if Martinez comes in, I'd love to see Martinez talking to Dorgu. I think they probably would have worked quite a lot when he was coming back in the second string 11s in matches and training. So maybe they have a good partnership together. And yeah, that's pretty much what we can expect. Now, if Sesko isn't fully fit or deemed fit enough to start, who are we expecting to start up top? See, this is the thing. I cannot see, against Aston Villa's hard-working midfield, a massive change where we go, Cunha stays leading the line. We go Mount and Bruno. That sounds great. But behind that, we go Bruno into the 10. So that's one change. Mainoo comes in for Bruno, 2 changes. Ugarte comes in for Casemiro, 3 changes. Dorgu has to then start as a wing-back, 4 changes. Then we've got potential back-line changes. So we could have 5, 6 changes in the starting 11. But we only lost 3 players. You know, so it's a very big game, this Aston Villa one. And I can't wait to see what other people think. So get in the comments below afterwards. Come back to me. Let me know what you think. And I will catch you on the next show on United Lens. Goodbye.